This is 5-time ROH World Tag Team Champion, the Zombie Princess Jimmy Jacobs, and I want you to listen to the source of all things Ring of Honor, the Honor Society, only on the Turnbuckle Tavern. And hey, I'm a princess. I always get what I want.
Welcome to the 12th episode of the Honor Society, covering all things ROH. As always, I'm the ace of the tavern, Stephen Acefield. Going to be joined shortly by my two co-hosts, Sneed and also FREEMZ. Going to be talking all things Death Before Dishonor. I wanted to hop in here quick because there are some people in the chat popping off, and I know we've been waiting for almost a week to talk about Death Before Dishonor and what an event it was. So I just want to thank the people there in the chat. Smooth sailing. Thank you for hanging with us, and thank you for waiting patiently. Apologize for the delay, but we will get right into it. Anthony, young Anthony in the chat as well. So love you in here. Great stuff. Smooth sailing. You seem like you're new to the tavern. Make sure you like and subscribe. We have all the content. You want to talk about ROH, AEW, WWE. We got everything. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. So like I said, I'll be joined shortly by my two co-hosts. And we will discuss all Death Before Dishonor, but I'm going to get right into the news, and I want to hear your feedback in the chat. And you guys, we have a couple people in here talking with us. So make sure you guys liven up the chat, and we have a big discussion to have about these matches coming up. And like I said, my two co-hosts will be joining shortly. So let's get right into the scoop and discuss the news in ROH. All right, so the scoop, we have the news section. We have a lot to talk about, and we didn't know this would be a news story coming out of Saturday. We thought we'd just be talking about the quality of the matches, the new champions, the second pay-per-view, really the first under the Tony Khan era. I know Supercard of Honor was under the Tony Khan watch, but this was the first fully booked ROH show with Tony Khan at the helm of creative. But let's get right into it and talk about Jonathan Gresham. And I want to hear you guys in the chat about how you feel of what's going on. So at ROH Death Before Dishonor, the pay-per-view, so Claudio, as we all know, and we'll get into that match specifically, taking it to John Gresham and taking his championship and dethroned him to become the new ROH champion. What wasn't known was all the drama that was happening behind the scenes prior to that match. So afterwards, you had Gresham deactivating his Twitter account, leading to speculation about his status with AEW and ROH and what went on. So according to Fightful Select, Gresham met with Tony Khan prior to the pay-per-view and aired out some frustrations that he had with the creative, the direction of ROH, and how he felt about it, and really mainly on the lack of communication on the part of Tony Khan. So he felt disrespected, and he essentially, it got to the point where he was cursing Tony Khan out, to the point where he went out, and if you go back and watch the match, he's not wearing his normal garb. He definitely has I wouldn't say a frown on his face. He's not into it. The match was very uneventful. It's not a bad match by any means, but it's not the classic that you would expect from both Claudio and John Gresham. And now we know the details why. So more things that went through. John Gresham, as we know, very passionate about the ROH brand. He's very passionate about where he was taking the championship, and he carried it on his back for a bit. ROH was a dying brand before Tony Khan threw a life preserver at it. But he felt like the direction wasn't where he wanted to go. And we've heard this conversation about Tony Khan before. We've heard that lack of communication with talent, that when contracts expire or the waiting for negotiations, that Tony Khan hasn't been knocking on the door to see how they're feeling. He's not as transparent as maybe some people would like. And that's just through the lens of these specific people. But then you'll hear the other side of it, how involved with creative he is, how open he is to ideas. So who knows what's the truth? I'm guessing it's somewhere in the middle. So essentially the vision that John Gresham had for ROH is not aligned to what Tony Khan had. And he wanted more creative control, creative direction. And Fightful Select put this report out there, and it's alarming. And I'm going to bring FREEMZ into the chat. My good buddy, filled with honor, twitch.tv/FREEMZ is here. We're going to talk all about John Gresham. What is up, my man? How are you?
What is up, dude? It was rough. I had a flat tire. And in my old age, I'm a little bit slower than I used to be with that stuff.
It's all good, man. We're here talking John Gresham. We didn't get into the matches. We were just discussing, there's a lot of people in the chat with their ideas, and we have Anthony in here talking about John Gresham. So I get the idea of Gresham holding the title through the pandemic era and all that, but business is business. Cursing Tony out was uncalled for. Gave him a bad look. So, FREEMZ, I know you're just hopping in here. We were just talking about the John Gresham drama. How are you feeling? Are you siding with Tony Khan? Or are you siding with John Gresham? How are you just sort of letting it play out before you pass judgment?
It's the business, man. It's the wrestling business, professional wrestling business. It is what it is. Gresham was the champion during one of the least, when Ring of Honor had like the least amount of eyes on it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's a different era. It makes sense for Claudio to have it. He never got it before, even though he's a Ring of Honor icon. Part of me wonders how much is real, how much is fake too, but that's another thing to be up for debate.
Yeah, I mean, we're always questioning that now. It seems the line is more blurred than ever with the MJF stuff and conversations with storylines and they use social media to do that. But it really felt to me watching that match, I knew something was off with John Gresham. And I had said that as I was watching it. He didn't come out with the octopus headgear. He definitely wasn't in his facial expression. He was essentially pouting. And I thought maybe it was because he wasn't going over, but I think it was deeper than that.
This hurts him. I hope he realizes that. This hurts him. Other promotions are going to see this. Like, you're not, I forget who said it. The wrestling business owes you nothing. And that's the first rule you should learn as a wrestler. The business owes you nothing. I think he needs to get over it. If he really is that upset to where he's like letting it. I mean, think about dudes that have done this in the past. If it was a money thing or if he's getting taken advantage of as a worker, sure, I kind of get it more. But if you're just upset over storyline, come on. Losing a championship to Claudio is not a bad thing. That's a pretty good spot to be in your career.
And at this point, it's just conjecture about what he actually was upset about. People are saying it was the placement on the card. They had aired it as a storyline that they flipped a coin and decided whether it would be the Briscoes opening up with FTR in the 2 out of 3 falls, or they would have the world title go on last. It seemed like by all accounts, the main event was always going to be Briscoes FTR. I know the world title has some level of reverence, and ROH usually has the world title held as the main event, but in certain cases, the best match needs to go on. It would have been doing everybody an injustice to have anyone have to follow FTR on the Briscoes. So you almost did everybody a favor.
That's as I say, who wants to follow FTR Briscoes?
Right.
Who wants to follow that?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with Gresham, and I guess we'll see more about this, but the one thing I keep thinking about is the other talent that have come out in the past and said Tony Khan has not been transparent with them. And most specifically, Joey Janela had said, and not in a negative way, I don't think there ever was a yelling match or cursing out. Joey Janela just said he didn't know what was going on with his contract. There was never a discussion. It just quietly expired. And maybe with John Gresham, he wanted more validation that there was big plans for him in the future. And I agree with you. It is bad for him in the business because where are you going after this? He's way too small to be in WWE. I mean, it is Triple H's new, creative vehicle. But even so, this was the perfect spot for him to be in. And like you had to know, John Gresham got a big win at Supercard of Honor. It's not like they didn't have him in these plans. And losing to Claudio, like you said, it's not a bad thing.
No, absolutely not. I mean, even being upset is okay. But being upset to the point where fans notice it is bad, especially if you're someone like Jonathan Gresham.
Yeah, still a lot to prove in the business. And this was his baby. Like it's finally, it's kind of sad too. I mean, I'm a big John Gresham fan. As you guys know, I've been talking very highly of him throughout this, since we started Honor Society. I'm a big fan of him and what he's done. And I have a lot of respect for the work he did. And we'll get into Claudio's comments and Tony's comments of him at the scrum, because I thought that was very professional on their end. But there's a big piece of me that feels sad for him because he stuck out Ring of Honor through the darkest days they've ever had, when there was no banner to fly. They literally had no home, and he finally has ROH. They're just missing the TV deal, but it's ready to blossom, and he's off the ship. It seems crazy to me.
That's the thing too, though. Like Jonathan Gresham is Ring of Honor his ceiling, you know? Where else is he going to go? So, like, you could say that he stuck it out through Ring of Honor, but I mean, Ring of Honor, even at the time, was like probably the biggest thing he could go to.
No, it's a good point. And just to kind of put the cap on what we were talking about here, the conversation between Khan and Gresham was held in private, but everyone essentially heard it backstage through the door, including staff and security. So it was not a secret. So it got out. Fightful reported, Sean Ross Sapp reported, Dave Meltzer reported. So there's a lot of truth to this. And the fact that he deleted his Twitter says a lot. And there is now even questions, not even if he's done. I know Anthony's in the chat as well. Hope he's content doing his terminus shows. I'm sure he'll have a spot in Impact. ROH and AEW was the biggest spotlight for him. He fumbled the bag. Absolutely. True. But there's conversation that he may be done with wrestling overall. And that's insane to me. If you would have told me in 2022, the beginning of the year in January, that John Gresham would be retiring from wrestling, I wouldn't say it's the most shocking news that we've heard in the past couple of weeks. It's still fairly shocking me. I thought he had so much more to give to the business.
I'm going to say something that's a little bit catty too right now.
Here we go.
This whole situation, it makes sense that he's with who he's with, like his partner, because she has a real shitty attitude too.
Sometimes that plays a part. I mean, the people you surround yourself could be whispering in your ear, like, hey, you should be in the main event. Hey, you should be going on last. You're the biggest deal here. You've been carrying the ROH title. And you know what? Like you said, it's not about wins and losses, about getting yourself over. We talked about it in the AEW wrap-up show last night, and so did the Flagship, just about how Ricky Starks lost his FTW title, but somehow got himself more over. And that happens because you cut a promo, you put the passion into the work, and you can get yourself over in a losing effort. And John Gresham could have went out there and been remembered, even in losing effort, having a banger of a match, being like, holy crap, what a great run for him. Can't wait to see him back in the main event spot.
Yeah. So that's another thing too. Do you think Claudio cried and complained back when he wasn't winning ROH titles when he was in ROH?
No, and that's why he's where he is. Yeah.
Yeah. He's one of the people that built ROH up to what it is, to what it became. And Gresham was part of the crew that this isn't like a negative on Gresham, but he was part of the crew that killed it.
True. Yeah.
And that attitude is just, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be more to this story. And like this happened, everything went down really on Sunday. Most of the news dropped on Sunday, which was the day following the pay-per-view. There hasn't been much since, and how could there be? He's not on social media. He hasn't done any media. Tony Khan's obviously not going to come out and just put more information out there, but I don't know what else is there to say.
It is a bummer.
Sure I agree.
I do like Gresham. Don't make that, because I've spoken very highly of Gresham as someone who quit watching Ring of Honor around the time COVID started. And just getting to see him really recently, I really liked him. And even the show we did before the event, I said, no matter who wins that match, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
Because I do like Gresham. But now that I know that that's his attitude, it changes how I look at him. Yeah.
It's to me, it's an insane development. And again, we don't know these guys outside of just them in the ring and what we hear about them. So it was very eye-opening what happened with Gresham. And again, I just hope he finds peace and happiness somewhere, because obviously he was disgruntled about what happened with creatively, and it had to be brewing over time. Maybe he felt like there wasn't enough emphasis on him and he felt like ROH was being overshadowed, but we'll never know until he gets out there and gives his side of the story.
I mean, ROH is being overshadowed. They don't have a show right now. Like, it's not by design.
Right. Do you think that bothers FTR and the Briscoes? They went out there and killed it anyway.
Yeah. The Briscoes were ecstatic about signing a Ring of Honor deal.
100%. So speaking of the new ROH World Champion, Claudio was asked about capturing the brass ring. So this was asked at the media scrum following the event. If you guys remember that Stone Cold podcast that Vince did a while back, they were talking about talent and why no one gets over the way they did, and why there's no transcendent stars. Vince and Stone Cold both mentioned Cesaro by name and said that he has been unable to grab the brass ring. So that's kind of followed Claudio Cesaro around for the rest of his career. This happened about, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago, this Broken Skull interview was with Vince. And that question is always asked of him. So he was asked about if it felt like he captured that brass ring he's been missing. And he kind of was a little I wouldn't say he was angry with the reporter, but he had a little bit of attitude towards it. And he said, what is a brass ring moment? If somebody can find that out, explain it to me, that would be amazing. It's definitely an awesome moment. I feel life in wrestling is all about moments and how you seize them, how you act in them, and how you succeed in the good ones and the bad. That's the journey. Everything I did in my life and my career led up to this. If that's a brass ring, I would say the first month was kind of a brass ring moment because it was, okay, how do you replace arguably one of the best wrestlers in history in Bryan Danielson? I have to step up. I don't want people to be like, well, I kind of wanted Danielson to be in the match. To be able to pull that off, then go into blood and guts, to me, this is a great and fantastic challenge. If this is the culmination of my brass ring month, then it's a good one. How do you feel about that, FREEMZ?
I love it, and I agree with them. Like, even without winning a championship, you don't have to win championships to be a legendary wrestler. Look at Scott Hall. I mean, it is about moments. Wrestling is about moments. There's people winning championships that I can't even remember them winning the championship because the moment wasn't there. So I would argue that the moments are more important. I can remember several things about Claudio's career. I want to say this too. I've been watching his Twitch stream. I think Claudio might be my second favorite active wrestler right now. As active, I mean not retired. CM Punk's my number one. But man, just the dude's attitude and the way he views pro wrestling. I get to see him like an intimate space like Twitch, for example. He's great. I think I tend to like wrestlers who love wrestling. I think that's why I like CM Punk so much. It's why I like Claudio, AJ Styles, people like that. And I think that's why I don't, and I'm putting words in his mouth, and this is just me. Roman Reigns, for example, to me doesn't feel like someone who just like loves pro wrestling, you know?
Mm.
So yeah, I agree with him. It's about moments. That's what makes wrestling.
Yeah, and I think a lot has been said about him being a missed opportunity eventually for WWE, and I don't know about that. It's just a matter of time and place at this point, and who cares at this point? You mentioned world champions and grabbing the brass ring. Claudio is making enough money for his family to be comfortable. He's making memorable moments. He's having great matches. He has more opportunities here in ROH and also AEW in this little universe they have built here. But that's not to be said like he wouldn't have been successful if he stayed in WWE. He also had a very good career in WWE. It wasn't like he was a jobber in the 24/7. Only a few months ago, he was challenging Roman Reigns for the title. Yes, he didn't win the championship, but he was a contender. He's won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. He's
been in multiple successful tag teams.
Right. So it's not like he hasn't gotten over. Everyone's expecting people to be Stone Cold Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan, and they're expecting them to be these guys that just light the world on fire. Wrestling's not there. You know, you're not going to have all these stars. And I think in the history of wrestling, the grand scheme of things, people are going to remember Claudio when it's all said and done, even if retired today, very fondly.
He has one of the most unique styles.
Absolutely.
Like the way he wrestles is so unique. I love it.
So we definitely will talk more about Claudio as we get to the match with John Gresham in specifics. But the next part of the news here, we have AEW star Brian Cage, who now is with ROH specifically. He recently participated in a virtual signing with the K&S WrestleFest, where he answered a ton of pro wrestling related questions, including his thoughts on the company's push of Team Taz and how he doesn't really understand why fans criticize his high-flying moveset when bigger guys like Keith Lee get praised for it. So the one thing I'm going to highlight in this interview, and it's a good listen. He was pretty transparent. He's been very vocal about there's been people speaking out against him as far as his space in the wrestling community and why he's not valuable. And I think Brian Cage is very underrated. He has a good space. I mean, I loved his work in Impact. I also loved his work in AEW in the beginning. But essentially what he said, his critique of being a big man wrestler and wrestling like a lucha, everyone, and I love Keith Lee. This is not a dig on Keith Lee, but whenever like praising Keith Lee for diving and moonsaulting and stuff, I'm like, you guys realize he's technically bigger than me. He's not built like me, but he's bigger than me and he gets praised for it and I get shit for doing it. I'm like, how does that make any sense? What did you feel about Brian Cage? I feel like he gets unneeded heat. Is it just because I don't know, he seems unlikable? What's the deal with that?
He does have like a unlikable aspect of him, of the fact that he reminds me, just his look and everything reminds me of like ruthless aggression wrestlers. I don't know.
I can see that. Yeah.
Like, you know, people like Chris Masters and shit. But he's a good wrestler. I also think that when the difference is too, like when he does high flying moves, he does look a little awkward. And that's what makes it stand out, the fact that he's big and it looks awkward. But I think he's a good wrestler, and I think he's a good addition.
Yeah, wrestling is a buffet, as we always say, different body types. We talked about Keith Lee and Brian Cage, two very distinctly different body types in wrestling, but both equally as effective in the ring. And I think similar to to Keith Lee, Brian Cage goes out there and makes the most of his opportunities. I remember watching him in Triple Mania. I think he was dressed up as Thanos. I don't know if you remember, they do those Marvel and DC cosplay matches. He was Thanos in the match, and I was like, who is that? He looks like somebody. And then, of course, later on, realized it was Brian Cage. He always impresses me when he's out there. Was I disappointed when he was the mystery Joker in that ladder match all those years ago at Double or Nothing? Yeah, I was. But I think he's always been kind of overlooked. I think he hasn't really got his opportunity to be in the main event. Maybe ROH will be the perfect opportunity for him to be there.
If you guys want to watch Brian Cage and understand why I do like him so much, go back and watch him wrestle Kevin Steen, which is Kevin Owens, back in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla back in the day. He's a great wrestler. I think the reason why I like him, like as a wrestling fan, well, not even as a wrestling fan, I don't know how to word this correctly. He's not my style of person. To me, he looks like if a tribal tattoo was a person. I think that's the best way to explain it. But as far as as a wrestler, he's great and has been. He came from Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Most of those dudes are pretty good. Watch his matches with Willie Mack. Go back and watch him. He's been doing the shit. He's paid his dues, hardcore too. Great wrestler.
So we will talk about the things that went on in storyline. I didn't want to put them in the news with Prince Nana and also Tully Blanchard because it's part of the storyline. I want to talk about the matches. But where do you see Brian Cage in, say, a year in ROH? Do you see he's main eventing, or is he in the tag team scene, 6-man tag titles?
He'll hold a title, I think.
Do you see main eventer? Is he feuding with Claudio for the title?
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe Claudio, maybe not. I don't think he'll be the first person to go after Claudio's title, but absolutely, I think he will.
Yeah, I think he might benefit the most from ROH. I'm trying to think of the rest of the roster, and we talked about the bloated roster of AEW and figuring out where guys go. He fits perfectly in the new ROH to me, and I think it's the perfect landing spot for him.
And like I said, I have a soft spot for. To me, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla guys are Ring of Honor guys in my head. And he fits it perfect.
Absolutely. So you ready to get into Death Before Dishonor? I was trying to wait it out 20 minutes. Sneed's not here yet. I want him to be able to get into it, but maybe he'll be here for the main event to talk about BRISCOES and FTR.
Yeah,
let's get into the top honors and talk about everything that went on Death Before Dishonor. That's why you guys are here, right? All right, here we are. We're talking about Death Before Dishonor, which aired on Saturday. If you guys missed it, our Discord did a nice little watch along with it, so you guys would have hopped along in there and had some good discussion of what was going on Saturday. It was a really fun time. Good wrestling discussion in the Discord. If you guys are not on the Discord for Turnbuckle Tavern, get on there.
I'm almost done with school, so once I'm done with school, I'll be back in the Discord active as I used to be. I'm just a busy dude.
Yeah, you know what? It's always a good time. Someone's always in there chatting up about stuff, and there's stuff about the shows, but also stuff not even about wrestling. It's just a good community to be a part of. So let's start with the pre-show, and I think we'll go back and forth and just talk about the matches. So the pre-show opened up, and of course, your dude Colt Cabana was on the show. I would have liked him to be on the main card, but maybe that was stretching it because he wasn't involved in any storyline. He defeated Anthony Henry as he opened in 0 hour pre-show. The crowd was super hot for Colt Cabana. He wound up getting the win with the Billy Goat's curse, and then following with a moonsault. So good opening match. Anthony Henry, if you guys remember, he's been in Impact. Was in 205 Live. He might have a spot in ROH, but he put Colt Cabana over. What was your thoughts on this match?
It's kind of not fair to ask me about a Colt Cabana match because I'm so fucking biased. But the reason why I'm biased, I think it makes sense. He's always exceeding where he's at on a card. And it's been that way for a long time.
Yeah.
He's better than where he's usually placed. But he's a professional. He doesn't care. He's another one. He just loves pro wrestling.
And lineage-wise, he is one of those guys that you think about Ring of Honor, you think about a guy like Chris Daniels, Colt Cabana, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, but Colt Cabana is just as much in the pedigree, enmeshed in the history of ROH. So it's great to see him here on the card. I hope he's featured a little bit more as time goes on, because this was his place on the last card as well. So I'd hope he can get out of the pre-show and be on the main card.
So I feel like, especially once there's a show, I know we have to say that all the time. Once there's a show,
Then we need a shirt for that.
There's not anyone better in Ring of Honor on the mic than Colt Cabana right now. No one on the active ROH roster better on the mic. It's just a fact. I could see him being to Ring of Honor what Chris Jericho is to AEW. That's kind of how I view him. I could see him doing commentary on shows. I could see him holding titles, running factions, whatever. I can see him doing all that.
So JD Drake got involved in this match. I'm not sure if you saw that. What were your thoughts on his involvement? Obviously not a big debut in ROH, but, you know, a nice little face. He's been on AEW television a bit. So he reminds me of like a, you know, Trevor Murdoch or guys like that, you know, it's a nice little roster spot.
Yeah, I was like, excuse me, sorry, I had to like scarf down my food because I want to eat the whole podcast, and I was starving. Yeah, I'm indifferent. Like, I'm not against it. It was cool seeing. It's always good to see people pop up on these like bigger events. So yeah,
it's like throwing stuff at a wall and see what sticks. And maybe Anthony Henry and JD Drake as a team will stick and can sort of pad that tag division and add some depth to it. So I'm okay with it. And again, Colt Cabana got the win, and that's amazing. It's a nice way to set the tone. And the Massachusetts crowd was red hot from the beginning. We'll talk about them as we continue on.
Yeah. The dastardly JD Drake trying to interfere in my boy Colt. I think it's cool though that interference still get a win. Shit like that. I love stuff like that. That's like the little kid in me. I'm like you know, a lot of millennials are real edgy and they always like the bad guy. Like, you have people saying like, I like the Sith and I'm in Slytherin, all this shit. Not me. I'm still like a little kid. I like the hero. I like Luke Skywalker. I like it when the bad guy or the good guy beats the bad guy in the end. So that's why I love interferences like this.
Yeah, he overcame the odds and he got the win. And the next match we had was the Trustbusters, who we talked about last week on Honor Society, just about how high Tony Khan was on them. They defeated the Shinobi Shadow Squad. So that's the combination of Cheeseburger, Eli Uzum, and also, who else was in that? Well, just the two of them, Cheeseburger and Eli Uzum. So those two guys came out. Cheeseburger came out in Delirious Mask, which was a weird touch. I love Cheeseburger. I think he brings a lot to the card. I think he gets a bad rap for being part of the ROH that we talked about, the dying Sinclair ROH.
But he was good. So there's like also still, you got to look at it like this. There's like the beginning of the Sinclair ROH, even though it's the beginning of the end, it was still good. That's when you had like Bullet Club there. Right. You had, you know, Kenny, all those dudes, all the AEW people, like that basically was the building blocks for AEW, and Cheeseburger was there for that. And when Cheeseburger was first getting over, it was like, I don't get it. And then I finally got it. And he's just like this little dude, which he's bulked up a little bit since back then. But yeah, I love Cheeseburger. Always great to see him.
So I've been to a few ROH shows. G1 Supercard, he was at that show as well. But I went to the show, it was the Briscoes versus the Young Bucks. And that's where I met Hangman Page. Hangman Page and Cheeseburger hung out until every single person got a picture, an autograph, till the place cleared out. They hung out at ringside and let everybody shake their hand, say hi. And I have the ultimate respect for Cheeseburger always. I mean, Hangman Page, what he became, it's insane to think of. He was there until the bitter end in his tights, rolled the knee pads down, and just hung out with the fans. And Cheeseburger was there as well, you know, taking it in, appreciating everybody.
Oh, whoops. I didn't mean to hit that. Yeah. Yeah, Cheeseburger's always been a fan favorite and stuff like that, because that's kind of his ceiling, you know. Cheeseburger and Hangman obviously have two different ceilings, just due to their size in general.
Right, yeah.
But that's one of the things. Cheeseburger's always been a fan favorite.
Absolutely. And the Trustbusters, is, if you guys don't remember, is the team of Ari Daivari and Slim J. Also, they got Parker Boudreaux, the guy who was supposed to be the next Brock Lesnar, but failed miserably in NXT. Tony Khan's very high on this team, and I saw a funny meme, and I think I mentioned it last week, but it's like, I'm going to tell my kids this is Steve-O, Brock Lesnar, and Seth Rollins, and it's a picture of them on the ramp. And Ari Daivari would be Seth Rollins, and then Slim J was going to be Steve-O, and then Brock Lesnar would be Parker Boudreaux. But this match was okay. The Trustbusters got the win here, as expected. Did a pretty cool combo, diving crossbody frog splash for the 3 count. A nice, solid pre-show match that, I was here for.
I actually think Daivari is super underrated.
Yeah.
I've always said that. He's really good. I haven't watched a lot of Trustbusters. I don't know. I'm guessing they were probably formed when I wasn't watching, maybe. I don't know.
They just put them together on AEW Dark. They have not been on AEW television at all. They've just been on Dark, and for whatever reason, Tony Khan's been hyping them up. Parker Boudreaux just was released from NXT not too long ago, so his non-compete just ended. So this team of them, it's sort of a mishmash, but I think that Tony Khan has something here, and I think he's going to ride it to the end and figure out, I'm going to just try out here in this little pond of Ring of Honor.
Well, they unveiled trios, right? So
yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so, it was a good match, and the Shinobi Shadow Squad, cool to see Cheeseburger here. Not sure what his future is on ROH, but it's nice to see him perk up here. Because
if there's a show, he could be on it. Like, he'd fit perfect.
Agreed. So, our next match, and we have 2 more pre-show matches before we get into the main card. We mentioned Brian Cage before. He and the Gates of Agony defeated Tony Deppen, Alex Zane, and Blake Christian. I was looking forward to this match big time because of the GCW flavor with Deppen, Zane, and Christian. And storylines be damned in GCW. They put Blake Christian and Alex Zane and Tony Deppen together. These guys usually don't get along that well. The one thing I have a little bit of a complaint is Blake Christian featured, and they gave him a lot of offense. I knew they were losing, but if you're going to have Blake Christian potentially take the GCW championship from Jon Moxley this weekend at GCW versus the People, I don't know how great that looks for Jon Moxley, your AEW world champion. And maybe I'm thinking about it too deep here, but it was weird. But this match was fire, in my opinion. They showcased everything you want from the GCW guys, and I thought Deppen, Zane, and Christian all shined here.
I think Deppen needs like a makeover, like an image makeover, because he's a good wrestler, but he just looks kind of like a twerp. I don't know how to explain it, but
like change the tights, change the hair. Like, what are we changing?
Yeah, I would say change the tights for sure. Probably change. The hair won't matter as much, but coming out in like the trunk, I don't know. It's just trunks and everything. It's like I don't know.
Well, it seems like they have the same idea as you. Deppen took the pin here. They hit a series of high impact moves. But the thing I want to mention as well and get your take on this, because Prince Nana has been resurrected in ROH TV or history. Tully Blanchard's now gone. So the Embassy now exists. And if you go back in the history in the early 2000s, the Embassy was a faction that featured Jimmy Rave, who was managed by Prince Nana. So there's some legacy here. The Embassy is an existing storyline. And I do like that they're leaning into the history and saying, you know what? TBE is not going to work, whether, Tully Blanchard is making the choice not to be there or they're making the choice for him. But I kind of like this better. Prince Nana had like this effect. I felt like I was watching early 2000s ROH.
Yeah, Prince Nana is great. I would have liked to have seen him with someone like a Jonathan Gresham, if I'm being honest. But I love it. I think it's great. I know I say that a lot, and I'm super biased to Ring of Honor, so I'm sorry, but I'm going to be. I'm smarter than everyone in chat, so they should listen to me. I don't know if you've heard FREEMZ Fat Five or not, but
I did. It's always a great listen. I don't want to spoil it for the people here. Go out and listen to the flagship.
Yeah, but I'm always right. But yeah, Prince Nana is great. I'm glad that hopefully they keep him there.
So just a side note, I'm not sure how much GCW you watch. Do you see Blake Christian beating Moxley for the title this weekend in Nashville?
It's possible.
I think they got to get the title off of Moxley because you need it on a GCW guy for every show they're at.
Yeah, I think it's very possible. I don't think he wins. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's like because he's currently the AEW champion. Right. So it's got to be in some very underhanded way.
Agreed, especially when you have Blake Christian losing to Brian Cage in the Gates of Agony here on a pre-show.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe again, we're overthinking this because we do the shows and we're like really in depth with this. But if you really break it down and start doing like ratios of who's equal to who, Blake Christian, if he loses the Brian Cage and Blake Christian in a singles matchup beats Jon Moxley and he's the world champion, it doesn't really add up.
You got to think of the most fair way to do it. Cause like I've heard people online be like, well, he should just win and just be like, okay, I'm dropping the title. But that's not fair to GCW either.
No, it's not.
It makes their titles seem less than. Like GCW has to promote themselves as good as AEW. That's how every wrestling promotion should promote themselves.
Yeah,
so.
Brett Lauderdale has to be presenting their product as the best, and their world champion should be on par with. Obviously, it's the same guy, but that's a huge lift for them when the AEW world champion and the GCW champion are the same person because it raises the promotion all the way up.
Yeah, absolutely. So if Moxley loses, it's got to be in an underhanded way, and it'd be a good chance to uplift someone else in GCW, like a storyline there, or
Yeah, not to get too into the GCW show because we will break it down on this following Tuesday, I believe or Monday. I forget the day we do the GCW show.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of GCW. Like my time is so limited, so I couldn't speak much up on it anyways. I'm just as a wrestling fan and usually a fan of multiple promotions at once. I kind of get it. So
yeah, they've done a really good job just on GCW events to build up Blake Christian as a viable threat to the championship. So it's not like he's randomly having a match. And Tony Deppen, too, who took the fall here, took Moxley to the limit back in June. So, and again, they're two different universes, and you want to talk about like in a comic book sense, these events happen in a vacuum if you want to think about it that way, but they don't, in my opinion, like because they're all equal to each other. And that's sort of the risky run of these interpromotional matches where you have Tony Khan has his open door policy to let people go where they want, work GCW, work AAA, work New Japan, but somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. And when you put titles on guys that are your guys, eventually those guys have to lose. Like FTR eventually has to lose the AAA titles. It's not fair to AAA to have them just drop the titles because in return, you have to put over another team on their end to kind of give them the rub. So that's the way I look at it.
I agree. It's
gets messy a little bit.
That's why it's hard to do these like cross promotional. I love cross promotional shit. I don't like it when the titles go around like this. They've been doing it too much now. And it does feel like it's messy.
Well, we haven't had a GCW champion in GCW for the longest time. And Moxley does show up. He was at the New York show. He's been at places wrestling, but there's something to be said about having your world champion be one of your guys. And we talk about this on the Game Changer Wrestling and the fucking GCW show. It's a catch-22 because it does benefit the product to have your world champion be an AEW guy. But it's not like he's carrying the GCW title out on AEW television. That would be beneficial. He doesn't carry it out.
They should do that too. Like I feel like I don't know. I feel like they should do it.
%. What's the difference between AAA and GCW in Tony Khan's mind? Like Brett Lauderdale has to be like, you're showing their titles off. Why not mine?
Right. Yeah, it's pretty goofy. I'd be upset, especially considering you're keeping them without a champion. Kind of. I mean, like you said, he's been there.
Yeah, I'm a little protective of GCW, so I felt like the title, and plus it's a beautiful fucking world title, one of the best world titles in all of the world, in my opinion. So it should be showcased.
God, Blake Christian looks a lot like Tony Deppen too.
Yeah,
Tony Deppen, but he also
looks like he looks like Buddy Murphy to me. Like that's who he also.
Well, they both look like Buddy Murphy, so yeah, it makes sense.
So we're gonna move on to the final pre-show match. It's Willow Nightingale defeating Allison Kaye. So we have the big ovation for Willow as she took on the Hexes. If you guys know Allison Kaye, she's from NWA. She's tagging with Marty Bell. They're the Hex. They're also one half of the NWA Women's Tag Team Champions. I believe they're still the champions. I haven't watched my NWA in a bit, but they've always been in that mix. So Allison Kaye, they shook hands in the beginning of the match. That was cool. I was really impressed with Willow Nightingale. Shout out to Long Island, New York. She's from here. She's trained here, local to here. She's a big deal. And when she works here, also NYWC, New York Wrestling Connection, she's out here. I was very happy for her. This was a really good match. And I think Willow Nightingale's earned a spot on the AEW roster. And I think now that ROH is starting to get going, I think she's going to be a really big force in the Ring of Honor Women's Division.
I think so too. I've always spoke very highly of Willow Nightingale. this just furthered my love for her. I think she might be one of my top 5 favorite women wrestlers right now.
She's awesome.
Yeah, I think she's great. Definitely future ROH champion, maybe future AEW champion even at some point.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the women's match, and I want to bury the lead here about that match. But wow, the bar for the women's wrestling match was raised all the way here, and it's just comparison to the match we saw Yamashita or Yamashita, however you say your name, Excalibur, and also Tony Khan say it differently. So Miyu Yamashita and also Thunder Rosa, they couldn't hold a candle to the match we saw with Serena Deeb and Mercedes Martinez this weekend. Like, it was night and day, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, Serena, and I know Anthony's in the chat as well, and I'm going to go up to his right here, his comment. He said, I will say the women's match was amazing as well. Really loved that match. One of the best women's matches I've seen in a while. I completely agree. I was blown away because Serena Deeb, and I know you're not the biggest Serena Deeb fan, but she really impressed me. And I think she fits the aesthetic. And I know we talked about that on the preview show. I feel like she fits the aesthetic, and she fits so much better in ROH than she does in AEW.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not very big on Deeb. We all know. I don't think she's terrible. I feel like I was being a little bit hard on her. She's better than a lot of women wrestlers. So, like, for me to, I feel like she got pushed really hard and dropped the ball, and I think that's probably part of my perception of her. So,
yeah, I mean, can't blame you. And I'm not the biggest fan of her, but I was super impressed with that match. And Mercedes Martinez, and we won't talk about that match until we get to it, but man,
I'm a big fan of her, by the way.
It was an awesome match.
She's so like a better version of Snuka.
Oh, Tamina? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She can actually work too, which is great.
Yeah.
Nice little thing she can do is work. Just before we move to the main card, and thanks for hanging out with us, young Anthony. Good point about the AAA and GCW titles. Never know why Max doesn't hold the GCW title in AEW. I agree. It's not like they don't have a relationship. Nick Gage showed up in the main event. Like they work together. If I'm Brett Lauderdale, it's like, dude, you need to be showing my title. Like, it's like, a guy who's ashamed of his significant other. Like,
yeah, it doesn't make him look bad holding the title. Holding 2 belts looks pretty cool.
Hell yeah. Even when he wasn't the AEW champion, have him come out with the GCW title. It just like who's tougher than Jon Moxley? He's the Game Changer Wrestling World Champion in a land of tough guys.
I wonder if there's like a reason why he doesn't come out with it.
I don't know. Maybe it's a network thing, but also AAA doesn't have a network deal in the United States. New Japan Pro Wrestling, same thing. Those titles appeared, and they still appear. All right. Let's move out to the first opening match. And man, I was shocked to hear the music start here. I was settling in for the night, getting some pizza ready, and William Regal joined for commentary. Wow. ROH World Heavyweight Championship, John Gresham versus Claudio Castanoli. So started out with a Greco knuckle lock to start as Claudio gets the double leg takedown. They started out with some technical wrestling, but something was off in the beginning. I guess take it from here, FREEMZ. What were your thoughts as Gresham entered? No octopus mask. Little bit of a scowl. Did you feel like something was off for him from the jump?
Yeah, but like I don't know. I don't know if it clicked with me at the time or if it was more of like, he did seem weird as an afterthought, like post hoc, like thinking back on it. But I don't know. The match was still good. It was still a good match, a little short. But yeah, I guess so. He didn't have that same energy that I'm used to seeing him with.
Yeah, I mean, the match clocked in at just under 15 minutes, so I expected to go a little bit longer, but 15 minutes is not that short of a match. It was a fun opener, as you said. It's not what I expected from the two of them. I'll just say that. I felt like I expected more of a technical, slow-building match. They went right to it, and I guess because they want to get straight to the finish. I mean, I want to shout out the Claudio deadlift gut wrench suplex from the apron inside the ring. Claudio is just a freak of nature when it comes to strength. Some cool spots here, near falls. And there was when it ended though, it didn't feel like it should have ended. And it might just because the Ricola bomb doesn't feel like a finisher for Claudio. And it's not the neutralizer. Someone said it in the chat. I'm not sure who, maybe it was Bellcast or yourself. Just do the uppercut, man. Do the uppercut as the finish.
That wasn't me, but I agree.
I mean, because the recoil bomb it looks like whatever D. LeBron. I think it's the lowdown when he hits the power. Like that's a setup move. It's a setup move to something bigger. And when he sat there for the 3, I was like, the match is seriously over. It was shocking to me.
Luckily, they did the big confetti thing for him,
which was getting on everyone's sweaty backs all night because the confetti, you couldn't get rid of it no matter what. It was always showing up on someone's back. Like even a little piece was showing up on their back throughout the night.
And I think the Ricola bomb can be a finisher. I think I disagree with that. But I think that Gresham has to sell it as a finisher as well. Like there's like he had to make it. I don't know. It's not that like he did. I don't know. I'm so frustrated with Gresham. I want to blame everything on him. So maybe I should like sleep on it for another week. But
yeah, I want to do also. I mean, Claudio did trap the arm, deliver the hammer elbows, the one that Moxley does and Bryan does. He made them look legit. So I always kind of give Moxley a little bit of shit on the AW wrap-up show because he doesn't lay them in as much as he should, which is weird because he lays everything else in very stiff. So Claudio did hit them hard. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The neutralizer felt like a very significant because he did the neck twist, set him up. It felt like building to something. And maybe once we get used to the Ricola bomb being his finish, we'll feel it. But maybe it's just trying to get used to it.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, wasn't the Ricola bomb his ROH finisher?
It's very possible it was. And you're probably right. I trust your brain more than mine. You got the big brain.
I'm pretty sure he didn't start using the neutralizer until WWE. And he rarely used the Ricola bomb in the WWE. But it's a power bomb, you know? Like
sit down power bomb for me. I mean, I don't know, but I guess we'll see. Not going to let that dampen anything on it. I think I'm just expecting.
Okay, yeah. Look at clips of him doing it in Old Ring of Honor. How much harder he throws down.
All right, so maybe it was just the fact that Gresham wasn't into it. He was sandbagging a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah, because I'm looking at it. I'm like, that looks like it could be a finisher.
So they did abide by the code of honor. They shook hands at the end. Gresham again, sort of, you see a little bit of it was a good moment. The confetti, and there's some good pictures of Claudio with the title. It was an awesome moment, and you can't take that away from Claudio. I think it's going to live forever in our minds, and I think that's what wrestling's about. It's about moments, as you mentioned before. And this was a really special moment for those that have been following Claudio and Cesaro's career throughout the whole run through ROH and then WWE. This felt like something special, and I think he's the perfect guy to strap the rocket to and let him lead the brand.
Absolutely. I want one of his t-shirts actually now. I don't wear a lot of pro wrestling t-shirts, but I'd rock his.
All right, so we have a point in here with Anthony. He said, nitpick thing, do the confetti thing, shit at the top of the ramp right after the 3 count in the ring looks weird, or replace the confetti with streamers.
No.
Streamers would be cool because, like, that's a Ring of Honor thing from the past.
Okay.
But
it's got to be in the ring, though. I disagree with it being on top of the ramp.
Yeah, or just remove it better. Like they just did it quick, and then
streamers
getting
make
on
more
everyone's back.
sense.
Yeah. Because especially in a big arena, it's hard to have everyone throw your streamers in the ring. It's not like you're in a VFW hall where you're just like there's enough room for everyone to throw the streamers in, because that's a nice little effect of, and it would have been a nice little thing, a little nod to the history of Ring of Honor to have the streamers come out when someone does something big.
Yeah, I would not be cool with it being at the ramp. I would rather it be confetti in the ring, but I would rather it be streamers than confetti. So fuck point. You, young Anthony. No, I'm just kidding.
We love you, young Anthony. So match number 2 here was the ROH 6-man championship, the Righteous versus Dalton Castle and the boys. So the Righteous are the defending champions, Bateman, Dunch, and Vincent. Vita Von Star was wearing white at ringside, so was everybody. Obviously, Vincent's gimmick is pretty much Charles Manson, and his, Bateman and Dutch are supposed to be just following him around. Yeah. Dalton Castle and the boys, you guys predicted they would be coming out victorious here, but what did you think about just the fact that the 6-man titles are being defended here and the quality of this match?
I loved it. I don't know. I love Dalton Castle. I don't watch a whole lot of Vincent. I don't know. What'd you think? I thought it was a good idea. I'm glad to see the 6-man titles back on TV.
I mean, this match was in my opinion what you would expect for these teams wrestling. It's not a bad thing to say you would expect this from the match. It was tough to get the crowd into this. It was the perfect match to put in here following the opener because something had to follow that moment, and we talked about something having to follow the Briscoes and FTR if they were to open. But let's not forget that Claudio winning the title is a big moment to follow, and the crowd's going to be a little bit, have to catch their breath a bit. So the finish saw the boss man slam getting hit on the other boy. Castle dumped Dutch out, German suplex to Vincent, then he hit the bangerang, which is an awesome finish. You want to talk about an awesome finish? The bangerang was hit on Bateman, got the 3. Dalton Castle looks like a stud. I'm so glad that he's able to be healthy.
He's gotten such good shape since I last saw him. Well, not since I last saw him, but like before that, from back in the ROH days that I was watching, like 2019.
Yeah, and people forget, former world champion. He had to drop the title because he hurt his back pretty badly, and he did wrestle with that hurt back for a while. So gotta give him some credit there. Before we move on, I just want to give a shout out to where these photos are from. George Tahino of Slam Wrestling. So you see the watermark on there. I just want to give a shout out to.
Nice.
These were photos that were taken by someone that I just want to give them credit because they're great photos and, HD camera, great job. And they're really capturing the moment. And like, there's many more photos that are involved. I just picked the ones that really captured the essence of these matches.
I want to add too, that I called it every match correctly, didn't I? But one.
I'd have to go back and check. I didn't. If we have an honor side championship, I think you won it.
Yeah, the only one I got wrong was I thought the Briscoes were gonna win it, but we'll get into that.
So before we move on from this match, do you see the Righteous having a place here in ROH, or is it just to get the titles off of them and just have kind of an ROH team that's there for a bit to have these championships?
It's another one of those things, man. Like, I hate to say it, I've said it 100 times. I don't know until there's a show. You just don't know.
They have a cool aesthetic about them, though. They look like a cool team. Yeah, there's something cool about them. They're
like Wyatt Family Light.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's got to mean to say, but no, they're cool. I watched them at the forced myself to watch the Choose Your Narrative pay-per-view. They were there.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least Vincent was. Was he with them or was he with his other team? I can't even remember. Regardless, they can't have so if they're only going to do like an event every couple of months, they can't keep doing Dalton Castle and the boys versus them.
Right.
So unless there's a show, there's nothing for them to do, So
yeah, and I think the thing with the Righteous and just a very nuanced thing they call these titles the 6-man championships, and Tony Khan made sure last night on Dynamite to call his championship the trios to make a distinct difference between them. I was confused. You waited this long to bring the 6-man championships in to your ROH area. You could have them defended at Supercard of Honor, but maybe they weren't available, and that's a different story.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's only the second event. They couldn't have done it too much sooner.
I mean, they could have done an AEW or whatever, but it's just an interesting thing to me. I felt like they were saving that style of match for when they introduced the trios titles, and they just kind of blew their load right the week before they introduced them. It was weird. It was a weird timing thing.
Do you want a championship to debut on AEW though? Like on an AEW? I wouldn't think so, right? Like the fact that if they weren't available for that last pay-per-view, I think it makes sense to have it for this one.
That's a good point. Yeah, I would say if they weren't at Supercard of Honor, it's hard to introduce it to the casual fan. You just can't have next in action 6-man championships.
Yeah, it's weird to call it a debut because it's not really a debut, but it is a debut since being bought by Tony Khan. Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor brought a lot new eyes to it. So
yeah, and you have to treat it as such. There's going to be fans that watch, and that's the goal, really, because if Ring of Honor stays with the passionate fans that have always been watching, they wouldn't raise their ceiling. Because obviously they need to be purchased for a reason. And obviously COVID, the pandemic expedited that whole process of them going out of business. But with ROH, you want new eyes on the product. And I think it's hard to do and balance on the AEW television show. I thought they did a good job building this pay-per-view in a short period of time. But it was just, to me, it was interesting because they've been kind of saving this trios idea for their product. And to be like, you know what? But you know what? You can look at it the other way around. That maybe it's validation that Tony Khan feels like ROH is still his baby. It's not his he didn't create it, but he feels it's just as special to him and he wants to honor it. And the 6-man titles have a huge legacy in ROH, no matter how you slice it, no matter whose idea it was to start them there. He feels the benefit of the ROH product is to have the 6-man titles there, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So moving on, this match, man, let's get into this one. Match number 3 was the ROH Pure Championship. Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia. Where to even start with this match? I expected this match was going to be killer. We talked about it on the pre-show, just about the fact that we know these guys can tear it up. Yeah. I thought they did a much better job of explaining the Pure rules. The graphics were much better than Supercard of Honor. The fact that there were no rope breaks in the match really helped. That it didn't slow anything down. But man, this to me is pro wrestling. If you want to show someone professional wrestling for the first time and you want to show someone hard-hitting wrestling, the pictures that we have here, and I know Wheeler posted a photo and Daniel Garcia did of their chest being caved in from the slaps on the neck and the slaps on the chest. These guys went out there. It was an unbelievable match. If you guys remember, and if you've been following along with the careers of Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia, they have a history. They had a 1-hour time limit draw on IWTV last year. They wrestled for the championship. So when I think about Ring of Honor, I think about this style of match, hard hitting with a focus of submissions, one wrestler trying to beat the other guy down with hard hitting, strong, stiff offense. And they weren't just trying to get offensive spots in. This to me was everything about this. Reminded me of the old school Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe matches.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I'd love to see Daniel Garcia stay in like Ring of Honor if that like it's a show. I'm really big on him. I think Wheeler Yuta is obviously going to be mostly AEW. I could see him going back and forth a lot. He's one of my favorites too. I knew this match was going to be good. I have a feeling it's underrated, even though I don't know how much people are really talking about it. I just love the pure wrestling stuff in general. It's perfect with the history of ROH, you know?
Yeah, I didn't see the star ratings from Meltzer or any of the other pundits. Not that it matters. I am curious how they rate it because it does have a little bit of their kind of a handcuff with the pure wrestling rules. I know people take some stars off of the quality of the match because of those rules, but I thought it helped this match out. And the other thing you want to talk about, ratios and making logistics make sense. You had Daniel Garcia with probably the biggest match win he'll ever get on TV against Bryan Danielson last night, making him pass out in the sharpshooter. He looks great, but also how great does Wheeler Yuta look now where he beat Daniel Garcia only a few days before, and then Daniel Garcia goes out there and gets a win over Bryan Danielson. So it helps everyone exponentially because Daniel Garcia is great. Now Wheeler Yuta got this tremendous win defending his championship successfully. It helps everybody involved, and Bryan Danielson just helped 2 careers get off the ground and continue rising.
I can't wait to see Bryan Danielson be like wrestling in a Ring of Honor ring.
It's got to be happening soon, right?
Yeah. That's like two of the things that I want to see happen the most with this purchase is Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe, CM Punk, all 3 in a Ring of Honor ring. And I want AEW to make a classic figure line that has classic ROH figures. I think that'd be cool. I don't even collect figures, and I would buy those.
You listening, Jeremy Padower? That's what we want, man. An ROH Jazzwares. Man, special fit. Can you imagine American Dragon, old school wrestling figure, and old
CM
school
Punk with the shorts? Yeah. Yep. Young Joe.
Yep.
It'd be so cool, man.
Chris Daniels.
Chris Daniels.
Jay Lethal. Yeah.
All of them. I would love it. I would buy the whole series. I would buy the whole set.
So if you had to say knee-jerk reaction right now, better match, top of your head, Bryan Danielson versus Daniel Garcia or Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia?
Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia.
Is it because of the stakes and the stage?
I think it's the stakes, the fact that they both, Wheeler Yuta's got like one of the biggest rockets on his back right now. Daniel Garcia is getting pushed pretty damn good as well. They're both young, so there's a lot of energy there that you're not getting with Daniel Bryan. Not that Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson's bad, but obviously he's not the same as he was 10 years ago. I think a lot of people would disagree with me, but I think a lot of it has to do with the name Bryan Danielson more so than what's happening in the ring. I think the pure wrestling brand helps showcase wrestling. and it was an excellent match.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was a perfect match, and that wrestling style is not for everybody. But if you're looking for the style of Ring of Honor that made them popular in the first place, this is what it is, and this is hard-hitting wrestling, hardest hitting wrestling you'll see anywhere. I mean, I'll take any wrestling match in New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2022 and compare it to this one. These guys went out there and were super stiff, made everything look real.
Yeah.
I loved it, and kudos to both those guys.
Yeah, 100%.
So the next match here, we had ROH taking on Dragon Lee, and these are two brothers coming on here. We got this announced following the show.
Because we didn't, there's a few matches we didn't have predictions for.
Right.
So obviously I didn't call this one correctly, and I'm glad. I would have guessed. I promise you, I would have said ROH.
Yeah.
I feel like it's obvious, but it was an awesome match.
Yeah, and these guys have wrestled before. And the thing that's really cool about this is just where it was placed in the card. And I think that's important when you're making an event up, is to place everything the correct spot on the card. And the difference between the match we saw for the Pure Championship between Wheeler and Daniel Garcia and this match, it's completely different. Two different styles of wrestling, high flying, hold your breath. Some of the spots in this match, man, this is the spot I'm talking about outside the ring where he did the dive and then went through the table. These guys clearly trust each other because obviously they're family. You mentioned everyone would expect ROH to get the win here. He's the former world champion. Dragon Lee's never been ROH world champion, correct?
No, he's like super young, right?
I think he's like 20, 25, 26, but he's been challenging in the main event before. I think they wrestled for the ROH title when ROH was champion over a year ago.
Yeah, he's been tag team champion twice and television champion twice.
And also, too, you want to think about the ROH brand. ROH just went out there in the opening match, challenged Jon Moxley, kicked out of the Death Rider, took Moxley to the limit, and then it makes Dragon Lee look good because he took his brother to the limit. It's all great. It's all serendipity, and this ecosystem of ROH and AEW is working perfectly, in my opinion.
I will say, watching this match, I feel like Dragon Lee's the better wrestler. I like, and that's I mean, it's a hot bar. Like, it's not saying that ROH is bad, but I've never like paid that much attention to Dragon Lee. The dude can work.
Yeah. So we had the finish come where there was a super kick by ROH, hit a Superman punch, and then locked in the bull's horn, and then got the 3. So as we mentioned, this match was really good. Go back and check this out. It was a different pace setter. Instead of abiding by the code of honor, they had the hug of honor. Two brothers got a hug, right? This was a great, great match. And there's something about brothers and family wrestling. They take each other to the limit to a point where, like, you're willing to do something with someone you trust. Like, some of the best wrestling we had in history are two guys that are super close, whether they're family or not, or just really close friends. There's something about beating up someone you trust. And this was no different. This match was awesome.
This made me wonder, what's Kenny King up to?
It's a good question.
Because he used to be tag team partners with Dragon Lee back in the day. That's who he won the championship with.
It's a very good question. He was a big part with Ring of Honor a few years back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Dragon Lee looked good in defeat. Can't say enough good things about this match. And it was the perfect spot on the card to really put in between the Pure Championship match and also the upcoming match we're going to be talking about, the Women's Championship between Mercedes Martinez and Serena Deeb. Pull up the match card here. What was your expectations coming into this? You had a high bar, or was it something you were just like, this is going to be one of those matches, I'm going to take a break and kind of catch my breath?
I don't know if you remembered me on the pre-show, but I was like, I just don't care for Serena Deeb.
Right.
It exceeded my expectations. The match exceeded my expectations.
So they abided by the code of honor, chain wrestling to start, and young Anthony said it perfectly. This match was one of the best women's matches I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah.
Both of them went out there, and the crowd, who was pretty quiet from the beginning, they were maybe saving their breath for the final matches that were coming up, but they quickly got into it. This match went a really, really long. I mean, it went long. They worked their asses off. The story was both women knew each other very well and had counters for each other's moves, if you guys noticed. So if they went for submission, Serena was able to counter it. Same thing with Mercedes. This was all action, man. And I think the women really stepped up their game here. And it's cool to see Mercedes continue to get her recognition, because I predicted that Serena would get the win here. Mercedes Martinez, this is a big nod of approval in her direction, that they have big plans for her in the women's division going forward. But yeah, Serena Deeb looks strong. And the finish that we saw there looked really legit. That submission is ridiculous. This locked in, man, the Veracity Sleeper is legitimate.
Yeah, I love that finisher. I guess, it looks great. It looks painful.
Yeah, there was a couple of near spots where we thought the Serena was going to get the win. She locked in the Serenity lock. Mercedes rolled through it and got a 2 count. Man, there was a lot of good spots, false finishes galore. So Hawk would have hated it. But it was awesome. And we saw the finish of the match after they hugged. A lot of respect. And that was the theme of the night. Aside from a few times, I think in the first match with Colt Cabana, they didn't shake hands. Daniel Garcia didn't shake hands with Wheeler Yuta. But for the most part, everyone abided by the code of honor. I think that's important because that's what Ring of Honor is based on.
Yeah, and by not abiding by it, it kind of adds heat to it. So that's why it's better for it to be used most of the time.
Right. It needs to be used sparingly. Not every heel needs to be like, I'm not shaking your hand. It needs to be done by the most dastardly heel. Like Daniel Garcia is not an ROH guy. He said he's a sports entertainer. He's a JAS guy. So I think him not shaking hand makes sense. But everybody else, even with Gresham put his differences aside. It meant enough to him to abide by the code of honor because ROH does mean a lot for him. It would be contradictory for him not to shake Claudio's hand after the match they had.
Yeah. Also, Kenny King is an Impact. He was in Ring of Honor, though, whenever it ended.
Yeah, and I would expect him to be back. I think he has a big spot.
I think so, too. It depends on what kind of contract he has with Impact. But damn, I would love to see Kenny King back. That'd be so awesome.
There was a great Spider German in the middle of this match that Mercedes hit on Serena Deeb. Deeb looked shaken up from there, and I'm not sure if she was selling or not. Then she hit a Northern Lariat, and Deeb falls face first. You could tell these women were feeling it in the middle of the match.
Yeah.
Like, when you hit a different level and the match hits that stride, we're like, they're a part of something special. They got "This is awesome" chants. The crowd was hot for this, and they didn't have the crowd in the palm of their hands to start. So that's a hard place to be, and they got them riding there.
It's turned me on Serena Deeb quite a bit too, and like I chalk up her last match with Thunder Rosa to maybe a little bit of ring rust because she looked great out there.
Yeah,
like I said, they wrestled their ass off. I mean,
I love Thunder, but you got to even the match she had with Yamashita last night. It wasn't great. Like her whole run so far through the Women's Championship has been subpar. And it's not just the fact she's being booked poorly. It's the matches as well. Like she's not putting out the best possible matches. She's never the best match on the card, which is.
Yeah. The last really good match I saw Thunder Rosa in was when she wrestled Mercedes Martinez, actually.
True. It's a good point.
But I also feel like for Thunder Rosa's style, the style of wrestling she does, they're not booking her with the best people, but that's not their fault. Like she needs to be more adaptable. So
yeah, we the Chads have said it on the flagship top of the ramp stuff.
Yeah,
the booking hasn't helped her out, but she also hasn't helped herself out.
Yeah, there was no booking leading up to this match.
The other, like you got to make the most opportunities when you're on the screen.
Yeah. There's no booking leading up to this match, and it was a great match. So
right. So as far as booking goes, this match has been feeling like it's been building up forever. And we had Samoa Joe taking on Jay Lethal for the television championship. Feels like we haven't seen Joe in quite some time. These guys met in the aisleway. They have a blood feud going on. This feud has been very deep. What were your expectations going in? Were you expecting this to steal the show, or was it one of those matches that you kind of just, I don't know.
When you have FTR Briscoes on the card, it's hard to steal the show. This, I would say, met my expectations. I had high expectations, and it met them. I don't like the way Jay Lethal's being booked right now, but as far as a wrestler goes, he's pretty awesome. I would argue that they're booking him better in the Ric Flair retirement match than they are in AEW right now.
It's a fair point.
It was a great match, and I love watching Lethal work with someone the size of Joe. Because
Joe is an absolute monster.
Yeah, and Joe just has this look to him. He's just a scary dude, big Samoan dude.
A cool spot of the match was when Jay Lethal was threatening to leave with the championship, but just being like a pussy heel. Ian Riccoboni reminded everybody and said, if he does that, it's referee's discretion on if the title changes hands. So it's not just a normal WWE sports entertainment title can't change hands on a DQ. It's referee's discretion. So it gives a little bit more earnest to these champions that they have to get in the ring and wrestle.
Yeah.
So
I wonder where we go from here. We'll talk about the match more before we talk about all that, I guess. But
yeah, some good spots here. We had the match getting started after the things going on outside the ring where Lethal and Singh put a chair around Joe's arm and run him into the pole at ringside. So now when the match officially started, Joe's obviously starting from behind. They're really selling the fact that he's been out of the ring for a bit. They work on the elbow for the most of the match to kind of take Joe down to size. To me, with Joe, that he hasn't been in the ring for a while, he did look a lot crisper than he did in that first little run he had in AEW when he was on TV almost weekly. So I think he's finally healthy.
Yeah, he did seem a lot healthier. This is the best match we've seen him in since he's been back. I think it's better than even the last pay-per-view match he was in when he won the title.
Right.
A large part of that could be also Jay Lethal too. I mean, Jay Lethal's a worker, so I mean, there's nothing bad to say. I can't think of anything bad to say about the match, other than the fact that it was overshadowed by the match that everyone expected to overshadow it.
Yeah, an interesting place on the card too, because these are two fan favorites in the ROH world, Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal. Some cool spots in the match. Joe hitting that Pele kick looked so smooth. Lethal hit a missile drop kick to the bad arm. He really focused on the arm that was injured with the chair prior to the match starting. So they're really selling that. The ending we saw that also Lethal tried to get him up for his own muscle buster, which was crazy. I don't think anyone's ever lifted Joe for a muscle buster. Obviously Lethal couldn't get him up. His back gave out and he fell off on the ropes, but there was a very close near fall where he went for the muscle buster. The injured arm prevented Joe from picking it up and finishing it. Lethal bounced off the ropes, hit the lethal injection, and it was like 2.99999. I thought for a second Jay Lethal was getting the win. What a great near fall.
Yeah, I love those.
So then Lethal headed back to the injured arm with a drop kick. Lethal charged in the corner again, but Joe catches him with the judo throw. And Sanjay is here, and Lethal brains Joe with the ROH TV title. Another great near fall, and he kicks out. Awesome job by the booking team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what else to add to that, but I agree. Like, is booked perfect.
So the ending saw Lethal go for another lethal injection. Joe catches him in the rear naked choke, and Lethal rolls through, and Joe kicks Lethal's legs forward right into the seated takeback, and Joe has it locked in. Like I said, Joe looked crisper than ever. I felt like he's finally healthy. The right decision to me was made. Joe has to continue to look strong. I think the future is super bright for AEW, ROH, and the relationship with Samoa Joe. I am very excited to see now that Samoa Joe is healthy. His mind's right. He feels like he's back to where he should be competitively. Now we continue to move on. And I think it's great to have the TV title on him because he's a great guy to have an ROH to build around.
I think they need to keep it on him, build up the prestige of that title some more with the new eyes on it, and then use him losing it as a way to uplift some, buddy who's not as big or as legendary. I think that'd be great.
He's been booked stronger than most guys have been since their debuts. I mean, he's got big wins over a lot of guys. Only times he's ever lost was in the Owen Hart Cup, where they took a lot of outside interference to get it done. So he's booked very, very strong, stronger than most guys on the card. It wouldn't shock me to see him involved with Claudio very quickly, because that's the natural feud. I would love to see a rematch of Punk and Joe eventually. You kind of have to do these dream matches while they're there, like while Joe is able to work. And when Punk's finally back, I'd almost want Punk to be like, all right, let's just do this reunion tour and have Punk, Danielson, and Joe all involved in Ring of Honor just to get them done. Because if you don't pull the trigger on it, those matches disappear, and all of a sudden Joe's not working and Punk's not working.
So
get done.
I fantasy booked this in my head with a conversation with one of my friends. I want to see a heel CM Punk come out in the ring, talking trash about how he is the greatest Ring of Honor wrestler of all time. And then go through the line, wrestle Bryan Danielson, wrestle Samoa Joe, have all these, ROH legends we have there now have contention with it. Yeah, Claudio. And it'd be really cool if he could get someone like maybe a Colt Cabana on his side during that, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean that is fantasy booking for sure. If they can put their political differences aside and get themselves in a ring, because that'd be a huge moment for wrestling fans to see Colt Cabana and CM Punk sharing a ring again, whether it's opposite sides of the ring or teaming together. Just having them together would be a big moment.
They wrestled each other a lot back in the day.
Exactly.
But I would like to see them as a team. I would probably cry. I'm a baby. I would cry probably, like, oh.
It'd be a huge moment. And some of my fondest memories as an ROH fan was, them as a team. Like they were the mismatched team that felt, I guess, the indie rock and sock connection. They felt like they were mismatched,
Yeah. And it's cool watching them do like old school interviews with each other back in the day.
All those old school ROH shoot interviews, the ones with Joe and like he's in his jeans and they're talking about the time limit draws and stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That exact one. I watched that like a few weeks ago again.
It's a great, great listen. Are you ready to get into the main event over here?
I am. I wish Sneed would have made it here in Tom, but
I know. But without further ado, and I'm sure we'll get his thoughts on FTR and the Briscoes. This is the match we've all been waiting for. It's match 7 of the night, 2 out of 3 falls for the ROH World Tag Team Championships, FTR versus the Briscoes. This is their second match. Obviously, the rematch from the win that FTR got at Supercard of Honor back in April. The crowd was hot from the beginning. You want to talk about the crowd being a huge part of the match, a good dance partner?
Well,
they were chanting for everyone before they even locked up.
Yeah, I mean, the crowd was great all night, and they still went more wild than I expected them to. It added to it. I remember before the thing, I had like my worries of it, like not feeling as special. I think because of the crowd and because it's FT on the Briscoes, it felt just as special as the first one for some reason. It was a great moment. Like we said, wrestling is moments. This was a one of the top ones of the year. And it's wild that it happened so close to not an identical match, but identical teams fighting each other. I mean, man, what a match. What a good time to be a wrestling fan.
Completely agree. And we talked about the beginning of the match. We had Dax and Mark starting, trading headlocks. Cash gets a tag and Mark dives for a single. They started off super hot. Fall 1 was, to me, I mean, it really set the pace for the rest of the match. And being 2 out of 3 falls, usually these matches start off really slow. It felt like from the beginning that you knew they were going to go 50 to 60 minutes because of the fact of where it was placed on the card, the fact there was an hour left. Tony Khan doesn't like to end early. But it was weird for Fall 1 to start as fast as it did because usually it's more setting the tone and making sure that everyone's there and getting there. And I thought these guys got off to a gangbuster start.
Yeah, it was.
Look at this, right in time.
Yo, what's going on, fellas?
What's going on? And you're perfect, right in time for the main event.
We just get the FTR.
We just got here.
The FTR.
Okay, yeah, we have the debate coming up, so we're getting ready to record with Nick and Matt from Extra Cooler. Had some issues this evening, so I was a little late getting everything started. So.
I had a flat tire.
Oh, that sucks.
But I still made it on time.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I had, well,
I was late, dude. I was late. I'm kidding. I was late.
We're just talking about the first fall, Sneed, and we saw the ending of the first fall with the Doomsday device. I feel like I was in Dax's head, and if you guys saw my FTR LOD comparisons with the pop, putting myself over a little bit there, but the Briscoes won with the Doomsday device for the first fall. Steve, what was your thoughts about the Briscoes getting the first fall here? Were you surprised?
Not really. I honestly thought that they were going to get the first fall. I thought that they were going to have the first fall. Wasn't really shocked, but I was super pumped to see the Doomsday device. That's always been one of my favorite tag team moves. And they execute it so well.
Real quick too, can we talk about that ring gear? I meant to bring up at the beginning. We talked about the beginning of the match. The FTR ring gear with the old school, with the ROH logo font, man, they're awesome, dude.
I love that they always pay homage to what they're doing.
Yeah,
with their music, their gear, everything with them is always paying homage and has that nostalgia feel.
Yeah. And like people have tried to do this in the past and it comes off feeling really corny. And it doesn't with FTR. It reminds me of like when CM Punk does that shit. Like when he did like the Macho Man shit, and it doesn't feel corny at all.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just pulling up the app, the guy who created the tights, and he makes a lot of the tights for the AEW and the Ring of Honor guys. His name's Chris Estelle. You guys can follow him on Instagram, Danger Snake, DAINGER Snake. So he did post the making of the tights. He made Daniel Garcia's tights and also FTR's. So he posts a lot of cool things on there. If you guys check that out, follow him on Instagram. A great follow. He also runs the account So Elite Wrestling. So some good stuff there. I think he makes MJF's gear as well. But yeah, FTR has a lot of nod to the history, and they're very in tune with Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, the history of tag team wrestling, and it just adds to the layers of the importance of this match.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, they always just have such an old school feel. And honestly, it's tough for me right now to think that there's anybody that really touches Dax on his technical wrestling ability right now.
Yeah, and I think there's been conversation about him potentially winning Wrestler of the Year. And, in the beginning of the year, that might have seemed crazy with the stacked roster that AEW and the talent on WWE can't be disputed as well. Dax has a legitimate shot of being Wrestler of the Year, whether that means something to people or not, but Pro Wrestling Illustrated gives that award out. Wouldn't shock me if Dax walked away with that award.
I wouldn't be shocked at all, especially if he goes over to New Japan and does solo work over there.
Which he already has, yeah. I mean, so I would have loved to see him in G1 too.
I love Dax, and I think he deserves every bit of credit that he's getting. But Wheeler isn't getting his as praised.
Oh, I think Wheeler's great.
I do too. I think he's performing at a very high level, but no one seems to ever talk about him. You're either talking about FDR or you're talking about Dax, and it's very rarely people talk. I'm just bringing it up. It's not that big of a deal, but
there's something to be said about it, FREEMZ. I mean, I agree with it. A lot of the conversation is with Dax, and I don't feel like Cash gets his due, like as a singles wrestler.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think there's something to that.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that with FTR, the spotlight's been on them for so long that they're fresh in everybody's mind, and Yuta's so fresh on the scene. What he's doing is awesome.
Cash Wheeler.
Okay.
See, he's so looked over, you didn't even know which Wheeler I was talking about.
Yep. I had a whole spiel for that, man.
No, Wheeler's ready. He's got one of the biggest rockets strapped to his back in wrestling right now.
Yeah.
I was talking about Cash Wheeler.
Yeah.
Man, that's even an example of that there.
Yeah.
Here comes the Dax. Here comes the Casher.
Why is that not their music?
Yeah,
I probably should have said Cash, but I said Wheeler.
Yeah. There's two Wheelers, man.
Yeah, I wonder which Wheeler I was talking about when we were talking about FTR.
Isn't there a Wheeler in West Virginia?
We were talking about singles wrestlers, though.
Sure.
Yeah.
Isn't there a Wheeler in West Virginia? Is in a city in West Virginia? Wheeling. Gotcha.
Wheeler.
Wheeler. It's Wheeler. They're changing it to Wheeler U to West Virginia once they come through and AEW comes through.
They do have a good bit of wrestling events used to come through Wheeling.
Yeah.
I remember, I think I've been seeing it on Shot and Nostalgia. That's why I keep seeing 1996 WCW. That's why I keep seeing the name.
If Wheeling. I'm not mistaken, I think Earthquake debuted in Wheeling, West Virginia.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think so.
That's pretty cool.
All right, so we talked about the Doomsday Device ending fall number 1. So fall number 2, the crowd was pretty low hum. There was energy the whole time, but they were quieter for the second fall. They came alive really early, behind FTR super early. The Briscoes got their share of pops, but FTR really got the crowd behind them when they went down 0-1. This was a great fall. I mean, it's hard to pick which was the best fall. We saw them losing to the Big Rig. Briscoes got demolished with the Big Rig, and it was expected. You knew this wasn't going to be down 2-0. You were going to have a 1-1 finish, and it was going to come down to the third and decisive fall. So Freems, what was your thought on this? A thought on this second fall and the quality of, I guess, the pace?
Man, I really don't know what to say. Like every fall was great. The pace of the whole match was amazing. You knew it was coming though. It's kind of why the second fall always feels the least special, because you know it's gonna be the opposite whoever gets the first fall with this match specifically. But still, it was still awesome.
So we saw a spot with Mark had Dax up in a Razor's Edge and then turned it into the Redneck Boogie, which was a super cool spot. One of my favorite tag team moves is this Redneck Boogie. Sneed, I know you're a huge Briscoes guy. Were you pulling for the Briscoes to win?
Absolutely.
You had to feel that way, right?
And I love FTR. Absolutely love FTR, but I'm such a huge Briscoes fan. Like, I just wanted to see them get it.
This is the only match I predicted incorrectly because I picked the Briscoes to win.
Yeah.
And I still feel like they should have won, like booking wise. Yep. I think it made sense for them to win it, but because they need to get the ROH titles, I think, on the Briscoes.
Well, especially if they're exclusively going to be there for long term.
Yeah, I'd say once there's a TV deal. But I don't feel like the Briscoes are going to be the one to take the tag titles off of FTR.
Yeah. Well, that's a theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we get a TV deal.
Yeah. I've said
we
that.
Need a shirt like that.
We need a shirt.
When we get a TV deal.
Because you have to say it because there's so much.
But it's it's so true. Like there's nothing, you can't really tell anything until. I mean, it's tough to predict anything until we.
Here's an example earlier. What's the name of the trio group? I'm having a brain.
The Righteous.
The Righteous. Steve was asking me if there was a place for the Righteous on Ring of Honor, and I said without a TV deal, it's hard to say because they can't just keep doing the Righteous for Dalton, Castle, and the Boys.
Yeah,
like they have to wrestle another trio next time. So without a TV deal, no, there's not space for. There's not space for many teams. So
yeah, it's gonna be tough to keep doing the same stuff over and over on pay-per-views every couple months.
And you got Titty Baby Gresham.
Yeah.
The third fall opened up with the entire arena chanting "Fight Forever," and a lot of times this is an overused chant, but this felt appropriate here. The crowd was super into it. Mark and Cash were the legal guys headbutting each other. Uranagi was hit to Cash, tag to Dax. It went back and forth. Man, the redneck kung fu chops dropping Dax in the ring. The best spot of this fall was first time ever, WWE, NXT, AEW, someone kicking out of the big rig. Freems, what was your thoughts on this, man? Like, this was a huge, huge rub for the Briscoes.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. That's the thing. Like, they never made through both matches, they never made the Briscoes look weak. Like, they always make them seem like this team is legit. And there is a lot of new eyes on the Briscoes that wasn't on there formerly, even though the Briscoes are way older than FTR. Just by Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor, that automatically brings more eyes to it because it's getting promoted through AEW. So they continue to make them look strong, and this is just another example of that.
Hey, fellas, I'm going to jump off. We're going to record the debate. I just wanted to jump on and talk a little bit about it. Thankfully, I jumped on right at FTR. So, I mean, that was
the spot we wanted you.
That was a good spot. But, keep killing it. We're going to go get this recorded, but hope you guys have a good evening.
All right, Steve. We'll see you soon.
See you guys.
So, Freems, to put the finishing touches on this match, we had a Doomsday Device hit again. Cash kicks out at 2.999, and I think what Ring of Honor and AEW have done really well is making the near falls feel legitimate. And sometimes, to me, a lot of these near falls across different promotions get ruined with the guy looking up and looking at the ref's hand to get it as close as possible. This wasn't the case here, and I think that's the ring awareness of Dax and Cash and also the Briscoes, that when they kick out, they're not looking at the referee. It felt like it was going to be over, and I was like, I can't believe the FTR is going to lose. And that was the case for a couple of these near falls here. It added to the drama.
Yeah, I agree. The two best tag teams in wrestling right now, and it's the little things like that it's the reason why that is. Their ring awareness, I don't know. It's we've said so much about these teams that it's hard to like go further into it. But I mean, it is what it is. They're amazing.
So for the finish, we had Jay fighting Dax off the top rope, and Dax gets a burst of energy, runs up to the top rope, hits an avalanche pile driver from the top rope, which looked devastating. Dax collapses on Jay. Even the cover that he landed on, I wish I had a picture of it, but he just had his feet on his shoulders, laying belly first on the mat, really selling the fact that the Briscoes took them to the limit. As far as this match goes, FTR gets the win. What else can you say after 50 minutes of absolute nonstop action? People were expecting a lot from this match, and they still exceeded expectations. They went out there and topped their match of Supercard of Honor. All four men gave absolutely everything, left everything in the ring for the better part of an hour. For being honest with ourselves, these guys went out there and tore it up for an hour, which is hard to do for anybody. People look at WrestleMania 12 with Brett and Shawn going out there and doing the Iron Man match was like, that was a feat of endurance. And these guys went out there and they do it on the regular now. And to me, this match just lived up to the expectations and more. And I thought it was better than the first match at Supercard of Honor. And that's crazy to say.
You know, it's a good match when it goes 60 minutes and it doesn't feel like it went 60 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love big, long matches like that, as long as they're good. Obviously, you don't want a boring 60-minute match. I'm still surprised by the match. I don't know why I'm surprised, but I'm surprised that it was as good as it was. Maybe better than the first one.
Yeah, and I think the biggest part about this is that even in a losing effort, the Briscoes still very much impressed, and they got a huge rub in a losing effort. And that seems to be a theme in the booking and creative throughout AEW and Ring of Honor, any of these vehicles that are run by Tony Khan. FTR, even though they won this match, the Briscoes walked out looking like huge stars. So if you're a casual fan watching this product for the first time, they seemed every bit on the level because for a few things, they got the first fall, which was strategic. They also got the second fall, which was with the referee out cold. They had it completely won. So they should have won the match in general. So that already put them over. On top of that, they kick out of the big rig, which is the first time anyone's ever kicked out of it. And by the end of it, it took an avalanche pile driver, an exhausted Dax falling on top of them. It could have went either way. I think the Briscoes look like $1 million here.
Oh, absolutely. And you can tell the Briscoes have a huge respect. I mean, FTR has a huge respect for the Briscoes. You know, just by like such a protected finisher, and they let the Briscoes out of it, you know?
Absolutely. And I think I had to go back and look it up because I remember reading on Twitter during the match, like, it's the first time anyone's kicked out of it. Because in my memory, I'm like, someone had to kick out of it in WWE. But no, it's been protected since the days of NXT. No one's kicked out of it. And they got that idea from the Dudleys. I think Edge and Christian had said that to him as well when they were coming up and said, the Dudleys protected the 3D with the most reverence. You could not kick out of it. And the only way anyone would get out of it was if it was a shady finish or someone broke up the pinfall. And they treat this finisher the same way. The fact that the Briscoes kicked out of it, it shows the respect they have for the Briscoes. Well, that FTR has for the Briscoes, like you said. And it is a huge badge of honor they can wear on their chest in a losing effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, didn't they even beat CM Punk with the big rig, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a huge, I mean, listen, the finish is one of the more protected finishes. I mean, the only other finish that's more protected is the One-Winged Angel by Kenny Omega, which it's been disputed if Coda kicked out of it or not, but that's protected. No one's kicked out of it as far as AEW universe is concerned. That finisher is the most guaranteed thing. And
it's my favorite finisher
as well. That's your favorite?
Yeah. As big as a CM Punk fan I am, that One-Winged Angel is pretty awesome. I can't wait for Kenny to come back. I know that's saying what I'm thinking right now, but man.
Yeah. So to put the closer on this event, Cash takes the mic as Ian Riccoboni reminds us the Briscoe brothers are going nowhere and that they're under long-term contract. Cash asks the Briscoes to come into the ring so people can show them the appreciation they deserve. They get a standing ovation. Crowd's chanting for the Briscoes, which was an awesome moment. They shake hands. Dax takes the mic and says, "Motherfucker, I love pro wrestling." Great promo by Dax, straight from the heart. Top guys out. But before they go off the air, we have the Blackpool Combat Club standing at the entranceway. Claudio and Wheeler specifically staring at the team. Man, think about that match. FTR versus Wheeler and Claudio. I'm here for that.
I'm all for it. I'm surprised we didn't see Young Bucks.
Same. We had said that last week on the honor side. We thought for sure that they would be here.
It doesn't make sense that they were not there. Just because of what happened, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. But it's fine. I'm not upset about it. And having Blackpool Combat Club there was, yeah, I'd love to see Wheeler and Claudio versus FTR. Or it'd be cool to see the whole BCC versus the 4, FTR and the Briscoes.
So we have a good comment in here. Did y'all see Dax's tweet earlier tonight? Just talked to Punk. He said the only way he'd come back is if he could win the brand new 6-man straps with his friends. Where his friends? Yeah, there's been some conjecture about the two of those guys teaming with Punk in the trios tournament. I would love to see it happen. Obviously, Punk has other obligations with the world title, but what are your feelings, FREEMZ, on them having?
Like I said, I had my fantasy booking on the last episode. Could you imagine FTR, Briscoes coming out with manager Bret Hart? That'd be so awesome. Versus
but as far as the trios
Blackpool,
championship goes, yeah,
quick, imagine Blackpool Combat Club coming out with William Regal, and then having Bret Hart coming out with FTR, and that'd be awesome, man.
That'd be fantastic. But I agree, man. I think that when I walked away from this event, I said this had no right being as good as it was and challenged to be the event of the year. It had no right with the limited build, the fact that there's no television deal. They knocked it out of the park, and I felt like I walked away very entertained on a wrestling show that really had no right being as good as it was. They entertained from start to finish.
So off the top of my head right now, if I were to give you my top 3 matches, FTR, Briscoes are in 2 of them.
Yeah. I mean, the only other match I could think of from this year would probably be, I think FTR is involved in all of them. I
love the CM Punk MJF dog collar match.
Yeah, that feels like it was last year. What was that, February?
I think it was March.
Oh, March, yeah.
Yeah, February or March.
It's wild to think, like, Supercard of Honor, we all walked away unanimously. Like, that is the bar for match of the year. And they went out there, and in my opinion, I'd have to watch both of them back to back. And I know it's recency bias, and people say that all the time. This match was better, in my opinion. The drama.
I think so, too.
Stage.
And I didn't think it would be. I went into it thinking that it wasn't going to live up to the other one. So there's that. Like, I feel like I went into it with a different kind of bias. Because usually your brain will even work that way. Like, I'd not expect it to live up to the last one. And it totally did. It's weird to think, too. Think about this, how big that would be for Ring of Honor as well. Match of the year coming from Ring of Honor.
Yeah, top 1 and 2. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's hard to say, like, what is top that? And I can't think of another match that's been better.
Here's how I know that I like this one more. Because before that match, my number 1 was CM Punk MJF dog collar match. Number 2 is Briscoes FTR. This match was better than that CM Punk MJF match.
It's a high bar.
Yeah. So that's how I know that I liked it better.
So as far as our next bumper here, since we're just wrapping up that for this honor of FREEMZ, do you have any recommendations? I'm going to hit the honorable mentions thing. Do you have any honorable mentions for Ring of Honor suggestions that people should be watching?
I actually do.
All right, I'm going to hit the bumper then. All right, Big Brain confirmed FREEMZ. Give us your recommendation for people to tap into the history of ROH.
I'm trying to find the year for it. Okay, I got it. It's CM Punk versus Chris Hero versus Colt Cabana. Triple threat match. It was on August 12th, 2001. I just want other people to see why I like Colt Cabana so much. That's why I picked it. Because I know this, like, his match on Ring of Honor wasn't like the best wrestling ever, but like everything that leads up to it, you know, I want people to understand why I like Colt Cabana so much. And it's a good match to show it.
Wrestling is filled with moments where people bury the hatchet. Gut reaction. You think Punk and Colt ever, as older men, put their differences aside and maybe appear one other time on a TV show?
Well, as they always say in wrestling, never say never. I feel like, and I hate to say this because I'm such a CM Punk mark, but also I'm a big Colt Cabana mark. So CM Punk seems to have a bit of an attitude. I don't know these guys personally, though, and I don't want to be all like weirdly parasocial. So it's hard for me to say. I would like to think it could happen. They both seem like they're professionals, especially these days.
I would love to see it happen. I think it would be great for the ROH brand and for a legacy thing. They don't have to, hang out all day, but just appear on screen one time. Maybe wrestle together. Selfishly, I would love that. So that's your honorable mention, guys. I mean, I think we're going to make that segment more of like, if we have something, we'll just give it to you. And FREEMZ is the guy to give it to. He's been the longest tenured ROH fan here on the Tavern. So
if you want to, instead of doing honorable mentions, I don't care to just randomly mention a match when it comes to my head, because that happens like several times when we're doing our episode. Like I'll think of a classic, whether it be Ring of Honor, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, or some sort of indie match from back then. I can just mention it then.
Hell yeah. We got a question from Tyson. Thanks for watching, Tyson, on Twitch, getting your entry for the Kenny Omega figure, the Chase figure, 1 of 3,000. FREEMZ, I'll let you handle this one. Do you think Chris Hero will come back in ROH?
I think that's up to Chris Hero. I don't see why they would definitely want him there. I can't imagine Tony Khan not wanting Chris Hero there. I don't know what kind of shape he's in right now. I haven't watched him wrestle in a while.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you seen him anywhere? Like,
he's still on the heavier side, but he could still move. You know what I mean? Like, I know he had that thyroid issue, so he gained a significant amount of weight, but he's still able to move. Like, he still does the things he could do. So, yeah.
It's another one of those things where, like, because he's not, like, fat. A simple ring attire change could do wonders for some people, I think.
Well, he was wearing the basketball jersey, so that worked out a little bit. I know his time in NXT as Cassius Ohno, that's what he was wearing, and yeah, I think he still has a lot to give.
I think he should pull off like a Doc Gallows type thing.
I could see that for sure. Yeah.
Kevin Nash. Like,
yeah.
I think that he should do something like that. But Sting is another one that in my head, I'm like, dude, when you wear the t-shirt, you look like a self-conscious fat kid at the pool.
Yeah, I know the Chads always talk about in the flagship about the shirt wrestlers. If you become a shirt wrestler, it's maybe time to hang it up. And Flair at the end of his run in WCW, it's funny, he was a shirt wrestler.
Yeah,
and his body looked better than it did and he didn't wear a shirt in 2003 WWE. So it's funny that he just took a little bit of confidence from Triple H patting him on the back.
Which he did have really bad self-confidence issues. He talked about it
for sure.
So.
All right, let's get our final hit.
I think small things like that could really help a dude's career. Because
I agree with that.
If you look goofy, you look goofy. It just is what it is.
And you guys, that is the moral of the story. If you look goofy, you look goofy.
Yeah.
All right, let's get our final handshakes in, and we'll get what's going on in
that's out to you, Tony Deppen.
Yeah, you look goofy, Tony Deppen. We still love you, though. All right, so before I get what's going on in the Twitch world with twitch.tv/FREEMZ, make sure you guys go out there and like and subscribe to the Turnbuckle Tavern. We're approaching 800 subscribers. We have that giveaway going on. I don't have the photo of it, but if you comment on Twitch, which a lot of you did tonight, you'll be entered to win that Chase Kenny Omega figure. That is the AEW shop exclusive, 1 of 3,000. So all you have to do is comment on the shows, that any show that's airing live. Go to the turnbuckletavern.com and visit all these little platforms here. Anywhere you find podcasts, consume us, support us, leave ratings, free content we're giving you guys. All we need is a little bit of rating, maybe buy a shirt. And the shirts we have here are outdated, but still buy them. They're going to be collector's items. This is the old yellow logo. I'm sure that Chad is working on getting some of that new great looking logo, the red one. But you know what? Go out there and buy it. My favorite shirt of the bunch is that FREEMZ Descendants shirt. Go out and buy that one. That's the best one we have on the Tavern, I think.
Sheesh, that's I appreciate that. I designed that shirt.
So, what's going on? Twitch.tv/FREEMZ.
Yeah, come hang out. We talk a lot of politics, but it's also a lot of memeing. I recently hit 300 viewers.
Hell yeah,
for one stream. It's a pretty big deal for me. So, because I run a new show not on my regular time. It's Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. It's a kind of a drama show. So if you like drama and like to watch people argue and talk shit, come by. It's a little spicy
And creamy.
and creamy. Always keep it creamy over there.
Creamy and spicy.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a delicious
power
dish.
combo. It's like sriracha mayo.
So on my end over here, guys, you guys can catch me tomorrow. Shot Nostalgia. We are talking about Bash of the Beach 1996 and also the Go Home Nitro. We're going to have special guest Matt from Extra Cooler on with us, and myself and Mike Belcast will cover all the things Shot Nostalgia. I want to shout out everyone, all the new viewers we had for that show. We did a crazy good number for last week's show where we talked about the Outsiders approaching everybody with the baseball bats and taking on the whole roster with the aluminum bats. It's been a great ride with Shot Nostalgia. We also have a special announcement coming up pretty soon, probably on Instagram, about what our next season will look like. I know it's way in the future because it's going to be in November when we're done with 1996 WCW, but we already have planned what season 2 of Shot Nostalgia will be entailing. So I appreciate the support. You guys make sure you guys follow all the other shows. Following Shot Nostalgia, we have Before Our Time with Nick Storm and Young Anthony. They'll be covering WrestleMania 3, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. We'll see what those guys who were way too young to even experience highlight packages of those matches. They're going to be talking about 1987 WrestleMania. It's going to be a great time. And of course, if you guys like what you hear here, we have endless content. You guys can go back in the archives and check it out. Check out the flagship show from today that dropped audio only. FREEMZ Fab 5 was on there. You got Call the Hawk. You also had the breakdown of Dynamite. We had the entrance theme, Invitational. So much good stuff on the flagship and also on the Turnbuckle Tavern. I'm proud to be part of this group, FREEMZ.
Oh yeah, me too, man. Me too. Also, I feel like I always fail to mention this. I do go live after this show ends, usually within an hour. So if anyone's
Make sure you guys go over there. Because right now we got,
if you're a wrestling fan, check out our other. I don't talk about wrestling on there. If you guys are here for wrestling, check out all the other Ring of Honor shows. Sorry, Turnbuckle Tavern shows. They're all great. You'll usually see me at least lurking in chat, watching. They're all really good. I don't even watch WWE anymore, and I still watch Raw Down as my way to keep up with what's going on.
I love what the Raw Down does is so good, and I agree with you. It's more entertaining than WWE. Maybe Triple H can compete with Raw Down, but for right now, Raw Down's the bar for sports entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's all we got for you guys. I really appreciate you joining us, and for those hanging with us, I appreciate you being patient. And we were 15 minutes late. We don't know the next time we're joining you, but when there's Ring of Honor news to break, we will be here to break it down for you. Myself, FREEMZ, Sneed, Honor Society. So we appreciate your support. Until next time, abide by the code of honor.